As already said, we won't be dividing the House this evening. However, I'm going to take this opportunity to deliver the Government some home truths. This is a bill that from its very inception has been ill thought out and hastily put together, without any guidance from children or the very industry it purports to be helping and improving. In short, it's a bill about children and social work with negligible input from children and social workers. By not listening to the profession, the Government has once again shown how little value it sees in using the professional experience and expertise of those who work day in and day out, often risking their own welfare to protect children and families. What social workers want is to be out in the field with vulnerable children and families, because the more time they spend with them, the more vulnerable children are identified and supported or saved from harm. It couldn't be simpler than that. So far, the Government's social work reform agenda has been a total failure, rooted in structural system change and tinkering around with individual, mainly Labour-held, local authorities. Madam Deputy Speaker, the Minister twists. He'll get his turn soon, I'm sure. There continues to be an obsession with adoption to the detriment of early intervention and work that can actually keep families together and children out of the care system. This Government is completely oblivious to the severe impact of their austerity measures, their punitive welfare policies, which are causing untold damage to our most vulnerable children and families. I will remind the Minister, as I have many times, that social work is a holistic profession. The Government's closure of Sure Start units and removal of early years help and family support centres, their disproportionate cuts to local authorities in the most deprived areas has measurably taken its toll. All this Government seems to be doing for desperate families is turning the screw tighter and tighter, year on year, until they break. In fact, as other honourable members have already said, the demand for help and protection is rising. Over the past 10 years, there has been a 124% increase in serious cases where a local authority believes that a child may be suffering or is likely to suffer significant harm, and the varied spending on social work has been found to be totally unrelated to quality. In short, all of the Government's initiatives and changes are not yielding positive results. This is systemic, not local failure. In other words, it's the Government's fault. Both the NAO and the Education Select Committee's report into social work reform notes there are significant weaknesses in the Government's agenda, and that the reforms focus disproportionately on changing structures potentially to the detriment of the very people delivering this key public service. What the social work profession needs is continuity, stability and confidence. A Government that can hold their nerve on how best to help children and families by putting in place and embedding good policies. Policies perhaps such as the introduction of PSHE, as referred to by my honourable friend from Walthamstow and supported by the Right Honourable Member for Basingstoke. The Government, though, are failing to get the basics right. Reducing social worker caseloads, preventing experienced professionals from quitting the profession, training social workers in a holistic way, not fast-tracking them and forcing them to specialise before they've even been trained in the basics, amending IT and the bureaucratic process across the board to achieve the goal of getting social workers where they want to be, from behind their desks and seeing the families with whom they work. This bill does nothing to respond to the crisis in social work and to the hundreds and thousands of children who need better services right now. Madam Deputy Speaker, I would also like to take this opportunity, as others have done, to thank the Labour Lords and other peers whose tireless work has resulted in the bill before us today being markedly different from that which was first introduced. I would in particular like to congratulate peers on defeating the Government and forcing them to remove dangerous clauses from the bill that would pave the way for the privatisation of children's social care. It is scandalous that these clauses are soon to reappear at committee stage. The Government's proposals will allow local authorities, under the guise of innovation, to opt out of protective primary legislation. Decades of legislation that has led to us having one of the safest child protection systems in the world. Legislation that was hard fought for by the profession in this place and in the other place. These proposals have caused alarm and outrage amongst the profession and sector overall. I have yet to meet a social worker who supports the changes. I've had no real clarity from the Minister where the demand has came from, who is demanding it, what pieces of primary legislation is it that local authorities and social workers are saying prohibits them from carrying out good social work. Will the Minister tell us now, today? This is legislation formed in the worst possible way, without demand and without any evidential basis for fixing the problems it purports to fix. The government have invented a solution to an invented problem because it won't solve any of the problems in social work. What I know from my time in social work practice is the things that social workers find prohibitive, such as case recording, are in secondary legislation, guidance, or in the custom and practice in their particular local authority, all of which can be changed without primary legislation. The government have denied time and time again that the opt-out clauses in the bill were not about privatisation. Yet late last week, 2 years after it was written, and an inexplicable delay in responding to Freedom of Information requests, the Education Department released a report referred to by my honourable friend from Ashton-under-Lyne, which sets out how children's social care can be moved out of local authority control. A report which states that independent contractors have said they are willing to play the long game, wait for councils to hand over the majority, if not all, of their children's social care services after they have developed their experience in children and families social work. So there you have it, Madam Deputy Speaker. Independent contractors are going to use vulnerable children and families to experiment with once the government allows local authorities to opt out of protective legislation. These are the most dangerous changes to child protection that I have ever seen. Labour, bolstered by the support of the profession and related stakeholders who have expressed outrage at these plans, will fight the government every step of the way on these clauses. Vulnerable children are not to be used as market experiments, and any child protection strategy that requires the dispensation of the law to achieve it is counterproductive and downright dangerous. Of course, Madam